나무 묘호랭개교 나무 묘호랭개교 나무 묘호랭개교. Hello everyone, Namo Myo Renge Kyo. I trust your health is good and you're in a safe place, or maybe you're listening to the audio podcast on a treadmill with the headphones in, whatever the case may be. In the spirit of following the example of Nichiren, our great modern teacher, of Shakyamuni's ultimate teachings of how to invoke our Buddhahood in this life right here and now, the Lotus Sutra, let's continue reading a translation of one of Nichiren's Gosho. This, again, I'm still reading from the book I've had printed out of Jacqueline Stone's dissertation, one of them. And this is the reply to the nun, the widow of Lord Ueno. And we left off about the nature of life, death, life, death, life, death, how we transmute through all of these moment-to-moment thought moments of existence from one to the next, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. Your late husband will escape this suffering, for already he had become a patron of Nichiren and the practitioner of the Lotus Sutra. And now we're still talking about that time period of death, not the. He talks about the moment of death, but the moment Nichiren is talking about is the moment-to-moment experience as we die, and identifies that all of our fears and our attachments and our misunderstandings of the nature of the life process as we get older and as we approach death, all the way to that moment of death, is accompanied by tremendous fears, feelings of loss, feelings of all sorts of negativity about our lives, the lives of others, but specifically we turn very much inward as we die, and to have to review through a lens that with disgust at everything in our lives is a hell, is it not? And so by understanding, by researching for our own self the nature of Buddhahood, Buddha-ness, the nature of life, of all phenomena, all being a temporary, moment-to-moment experience, that this consciousness of that moment-to-moment experience is amazing. It's wonderful. And that when we're no longer conscious, no longer have a mind, because our body expires, our manifest energies of formations end, they go extinct. That mind can no longer exist, nor its consciousnesses. That's okay, because in the big picture, it's just one momentary bubble in a huge froth of existence, right? And so we could feel joy at having participated, at having experienced the ultimate truth of everything. How satisfying, how relaxing, that now we're done with it. And we go into repose. It's a far different kind of thinking than fear of missing something, losing something. Because when you live in that fear, you are missing something. You are losing something. Because you misunderstand this amazing opportunity. And so Nichiren is trying to quell some of this woman's misery, this sense of loss that her husband is dead. Because, we are human. We have our attachments. He's not trying to tell her she's wrong for having them. He's trying to let her know that because her husband accepted and learned to attain his own Buddha-ness in his life, that he understood much more clearly the nature of life, that his demise, not a good word, his extinction wasn't a surprise. It wasn't a taking away. And it's not her loss. That this is just the seasons. This is the nature of all of life. Universe, grass, deer, rice, trees, skies. Everything arises, appreciates its existence, and then is done. It's okay. And so don't worry that your husband suffered, because he came to understand Myoho Renge Kyo, the nature of all things. By quelling her grief, by saying these things to her, he's also teaching her the same thing, isn't he? The Sutra States, always Nichiren backs up a statement with Shakyamuni's words. The Sutra states, even if he should fall into a great fire, the fire would be unable to burn him. Unable to burn him. Not unable to burn his flesh. You got to pay attention, even though we don't want to get hung up on words. We need to also understand what's being said. Because him, me, you, I, is a life condition. I can't reach out and grab me. I can grab my body, but that's not me. Do you see the difference? It seems subtle, but it's profound. Because all the identification happens in the mind. And if the mind is released from attachment, even the consuming fire doesn't touch it, right? The mind isn't singed or burned, right? Consciousness isn't burned. It's this fleshy thing, this apparatus, this vehicle that's burned. Although it's something hard to imagine, right? But that's what he's saying. If he should be swept away by a great flood by invoking his name, he can at once reach a shallow place. By invoking this name, what is this name? Myoho Renge Kyo, the name of the sutra. By invoking your Buddha-ness, even if you're out at sea, your mind will be buoyed. It will find a calm place. End quote. It further says, he's going to quote the sutra some more, quote, which fire cannot burn nor water carry off, end quote. How reassuring, he says to her. In the final analysis, you may look for hell externally, but the iron staves of the guards of hell and the voices of the Abo Rakshasas, rebuking evildoers, do not exist apart from us. This is a manufactured realm. This doctrine is of extreme importance, but I will teach it to you, just as Bodhisattva Manjushri expounded for the dragon girl the secret teaching of becoming a Buddha in this very body. There it is, exactly what I was saying. This is the critical teaching, that when you attain your Buddha-ness, this vehicle, this body, is super important for one reason and one reason only. It provides the apparatus for the mind and the consciousnesses to perceive, to experience. Other than that, this body holds no special purpose. All of the purpose is in the mind. Attitude and intent, attitude and intent. Once you have heard it, he goes on, you must arouse your conviction, confidence, resolve all the more. One who, on hearing the doctrines of the Lotus Sutra, strives evermore in resolve is called a true seeker of the way. Not a follower of Nichiren. You're not called a follower of Nichiren because you do this. You're not called a follower of Shakyamuni if you do this. You're called a Buddhist because you are a true seeker of the way. What way? The Buddha way. The instantiation of your Buddha-ness way. Coursing in this life with this vehicle as a bodhisattva to influence the world with your own Buddha way, your own bodhisattva coursing through the sea of other with the knowledge of oneness, of Myoho Renge Kyo-ness. Tendai Chi, he goes on, speaks of, quote, the blue derived from the indigo plant, end quote. This interpretation means that the more one dyes something with indigo, the bluer it will become, more so even than were the leaves of the indigo plant itself. The Lotus Sutra is like the blue of the indigo plant, while the depth of our practice is like the ever-deepening blue. The more you practice, the more you chant Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, the more you resolve to attain your Buddhahood, the more you recite, copy, write, share the words of the sutra, Gangyo, Daimoku, the more inculcated, the more alive, the more aware your Buddha consciousness comes to enwrap your existence as a bodhisattva. The more influence. And that doesn't mean walking around with a megaphone. By simply being around others with your Buddha mind, you influence your environment. Those who are attracted to you and those who move away from you are doing so because of your force field of Buddha-ness. Isn't that amazing? I've used this analogy before. I'm very visual. So I always think about the cartoon, the Peanuts Gang, and the character Pigpen. Here's poor little Pigpen walking around. He's always got a cloud of, even standing still, sitting there staring at you. There's his little dust cloud is moving around him, right? That's his sphere of influence. He brings everybody down because he's always down. But what if you flip that over to a bodhisattva coursing in the Buddha way? How would that radiate out from you? You don't even have to try because it's who you are. Constantly repeating your invocation of Buddha-ness. It's not only coming into you, it's growing your field of influence. That's a bodhisattva. Tell me if that visualization works for you. It's somehow, it really works for me. But maybe you have a different one. I'd love to hear it. The two characters Ji Goku, or hell, may be interpreted as digging a hole in the ground. When someone dies, isn't a hole always dug for him? This is what is called hell. So he's trying to identify hell as a human experience right here in Samsara. That's what he's doing. The crematory fires that consume the dead person are the flames of hell. But they don't affect your Buddha mind. Though I should correct myself and say, by the time you're in the crematory being burned, you're no longer, the mind isn't there anymore. So pardon me for that slip. I'm still thinking about the moment of death, and I got a visual of being slid into consciously the crematory. He's just making the association himself with earthly samsaric experience so that we understand the storytelling, the analogy from the storytelling. Got to watch my own words. Without respite. His wife, children, and retainers vying before and behind to be closest as they accompany him in the funeral procession are the guards of hell, the Abo Raksasas. The grieving and weeping of his wife and children are the voices of the guards of hell. Interesting. Do you see how he transmuted that? That's a very interesting thing to think about for a moment. He's saying that the expired person, the extinct person, no mind, no consciousnesses, because they've been a deep part of our lives, exist in our consciousness as an experience, continue. And so if you're crying and wailing as the coffin goes by, as a related person who's feeling the grief and the loss, you are the one instantiating the guards of hell. You're keeping hell alive. That's so profound and so easily missed when we read this, right? The coffin going by is not in hell. No mind, no conscience. But those who have a mind, still extant, still perceive, experience. If your mind isn't right in Buddhahood, the depth of defeat and grief you will feel will be profound. You will be experiencing the guards, the fires, the earth, the death of hell. Not the dead person. They're not experiencing anything anymore. You're putting a layer of this pain onto their memory, their energy still within you. Wouldn't it be of much greater service for you to be solemn, but enlightened and pleasured at the release from samsara, enjoying with every part of your being the life lived in celebration of there having been such an influence, such a person in your life. Seems like that would be difficult, but if you chant, if you study, that becomes your natural state. A moment of great, auspicious awe and amazement. And yes, there's loss. You can weep at the loss of a good friend, a cohort, a bodhisattva associate. but not with the grief of where they're going, because they're gone. Where they're going, to put it another way, is how they exist within you. Wouldn't you want, if you're going to carry them with you, their memory, their energy, their teaching with you, wouldn't you want to be sure to celebrate it, to evaluate it as cohabitationer in your life as you continue your consciousness, your mind, to embrace their positive influences in your life? Wouldn't that be a much better way to grieve as they depart? Nichiren's all about this. The staff measuring 2 shaku and 5 sun is the iron rod wielded by the jailers in hell. The horses and oxen carrying the deceased are the horse-headed and ox-headed demons of hell. The hole dug for the grave is a great citadel of the hell without respite. The 84,000 cauldrons are the gates of the 84,000 defilements. The dead man's final setting out from his house is the mountain of death's departure, his filial children lingering on the banks of the river as he passes by. This is the river of the 3 crossings. It is vain and useless to seek these matters anywhere else. I'm going to stop there. Now, I hope you realize he's putting a big final point on this. And he's got more to say, and we'll read it in the next video. But for now, I just want you to consider how he's dancing between samsara and our emotional understandings of life versus our enlightened understandings of life, and how you can transpose one with the other, not to color our Buddha-ness with samsara, but to dissolve our attachment feelings of remorse that are really negative, destructive to our memory, to our inculcated in our own lives influence from the deceased. We think about this in the 5th meditation of Gangyo, right? When we consider the deceased, we consider them with what? Love and appreciation. We don't lament that they're not here anymore. We celebrate and deeply embrace their memory. What is their memory? Our influence, our very structure of being, our apparatus, our mind, influenced by their life with us. All the other stuff, the mysticism about heaven, hell, and all the colorful language about the hounds of hell and the fires of hell and all that, that's samsaric emotion pushing itself onto what should be a celebratory memory. But also, as Nichiren says, suffer what there is to suffer, but don't forget to celebrate, to feel the joy of your Buddha-ness, your Bodhisattva life. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Right? All right. That's it for now. Can't wait till the next one to see how this develops. Thank you so much for being here, for listening. Download the audio podcasts if they're useful to you. Don't forget the website, threefoldlotus.com. Lots of documentation there for you to download or read. And, of course, the store. Get a Nichiren inscribed duplicate Gohanzon so it's not influenced by any other cults of personality. And books, the liturgies. It's all available on the bookstore. What else? Like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for being here. Take care of yourself. Be kind to you and to those in your environment. We're all in this Mapo world together. So let's make the best of it. Chant Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. I guarantee you things will shake out for the best. See you in the next one. Bye for now.